School Committee. I wanted to just kick this off by saying thank you for those of you in attendance to come and listen to the information that we're going to provide to you this evening. I also state, because I'll state this now and I'll state it later on in the presentation, that we understand that the estimate as it's presented is very large. There is absolutely no way that that dollar amount will be submitted to the school committee, the town council, or the public for a vote. So we all realize that that number is extremely high, and that is not the final number that is going to be coming out if there is a number that is brought forward for a public referendum going forward. So I just wanted to state that. Again, I will state it again later on in the presentation, but just wanted to make everybody aware that when we saw that, the process that we went through was to look at what the needs are, the programmatical needs that we have here at the high school, as well as the facility needs to deal with the growing population that we see coming to the town. So that is what we focused on through the process. This was the next step in the process, was getting the actual cost estimate, which everybody has seen, and now we continue with our process on moving forward. What I'd like to do right now is introduce Dr. Reichert, who will talk a little bit about the history of where we've been, and then we will go through what we're doing and next steps, and there will be ample time for questions from the public later on. Dr.
Reichert. Thanks, Darryl. Hi, I'm Chris Reichert, Assistant Superintendent here in Gorham. When we began looking at this high school project in 2009, I was actually the high school principal. And I like to think back at that time, actually, my son was just finishing kindergarten. And he was about this tall. And now he's looking at me eye to eye as a sophomore. And it's amazing where time goes as we deal with projects like this, or just go through life. So I'm going to whip through the history a little bit so you have a better understanding of what we've done so far. I do want to say since 2009 we've had many stakeholders from the community involved in this work. Lots of community members, town council members that are no longer on the town council, school committee members that are no longer on the school committee, staff was involved that are no longer in the district. So we've involved many people over the years. So in the fall of 2009, the first exploratory committee was formed. That looked at some options of how to address this building and some needs about getting the students out of the modulars into the actual building, recognizing we did have some needs with the cafeteria and some other parts of the building. We ended up hiring PT architects who did design a plan for us. A capital renovation plan. I'm going to share with you what that looks like, because some of you probably wonder what happened to that plan, how does it compare to what we have now. Dan, our architect from Merriman, and I will talk about that comparison, because it's important to see. What happened, we had a plan ready to go, and then the work got tabled, because as you know, the public safety building had to be completed in the town. The school district stepped back, recognizing that was really important work and had to get done. So we stepped away. In the meantime, as you know, our population began to grow. Around 2016, we started to get projections of a growing population that you know is impacting all of us. And the school committee, recognizing that, knew we needed to reestablish the committee, the building committee, and start looking at our needs again. But this time knowing we have a rather large population headed our way. And the building, of course, is getting older and older. Not only what you see, but what's behind all the ceiling tiles and in the walls, all the guts of the building, the systems. So that the JHS Building Committee reformed, the Athletic Capital Campaign Committee formed, and we began to do our work. And that work, we initially worked with Oak Point Associates to look at some options. Does it make sense to stay here and renovate? Does it make sense to go find another parcel of land in Gorham and build a new school? Does it make sense to flip-flop the high school and the middle school? The Oak Point Associates looked at all those options, and actually staying here in the center of town was the cheapest of those options. We also heard from the public how important it was to stay here in the center of town. and what this building and this place means to many people in this town. So we got that feedback. So once Oak Point gave us that, we continued our work. The town council was involved, provided us some seed money to continue. We ended up hiring Harriman Associates. Many of you have met Dan already. He'll speak again tonight. Their firm has worked with many high school projects, many school projects in the state. And we're very pleased with their work. Very professional, very thorough, and also very kind. Really nice to work with them. They've worked with us. They've worked hours and countless hours with staff, with students, with parents, with community members, with the administrative team to think about what are the needs of this building. And they come back to us with their plan. And of course, it was about needs. What are our needs? We're all wondering, what would it cost? I know all of you were wondering, we were all wondering, and we all found out that weekend, and as Darrell said, we were rather shocked, disappointed, obviously. That's a lot of money. You need to hear from the school department. We have no way we're going to bring this forward to the public. We know that. We're going to ask you to help us figure out how to get that number down. Really dig into what are our real needs, how do we make it lower, so it makes sense for our taxpayers and our students. So we've continued that work. Finally, Dan's brought the number to us, his firm, and the proposal, which many of you see, it's over there. If you want to look at it later, Dan's going to guide us through it in any case. But I just wanted to point out the difference between the 2013 plan and the 2019 plan. Really, it was 2013 plan was much smaller in scope. We were looking at a smaller student population. It didn't involve remodeling most of the rest of the building, renovating the rest of the building. It only really looked at getting those modular classrooms into the building, building less classrooms, new classrooms. It did address the cafeteria needs. A little of the rest of the building was touched. So I know some of you may ask, why is the cost of that project in 2013 so different than now? It's really the scope of the work. We were also sort of coming out of the recession at that time, so we were cognizant of that. So there are different pressures on us, different things to think about in 2013. So I'm going to hand it over to Dan to talk more about our proposal in 2019. He's going to guide us through it. As Darrell said at the end of this, we have 2 mics. We're here to answer questions, comments, and to get your help. Because we're in this together. One thing I know about Gorham is we're united. We're a town united together to solve problems. I've been in this town now 11 years. I really believe that. I know there's some challenges facing all of us with this, but I'm really hoping tonight we'll continue to work together to solve this challenge. Dan, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. So what we thought we should do to start tonight is to describe the basic program that was in the 2010 to 13 study and then compare it to what we have today and the reasons why things are different, which, as Chris said, is the bulk of the reason why there's differences in cost, but it's also the construction market. The construction market in 2017 was really great. We did 2 big schools. One was $5 million under budget, and one was $2 to $3/4 million under budget. And by 2018 and into 19, and probably into the future for some period of time, the market turned around. Last year, DOE sent a whole bunch of big schools, high schools, to bid. One of them in Calais had a $40 million budget. It came in at $50 million, and there was a number of schools like that. So the construction market really turned around. So obviously we're going to have to do some work on this existing plan in order to get it to a point where the scope of work meets your needs in the most economical fashion, and then the overall budget is something that the community can accept. We're not there yet, but we're working very hard on that. So to explain what you had before, in 2010-13, the population target was 900 students. Now the population target is 1,100 students, so automatically you have more classrooms, larger library, larger cafeteria, a number of things, just because you have more students, and that's based on population projections. And the school department has done a couple of projections in the past year to really test it and to make sure that, in fact, the numbers that we're getting are numbers that we can rely on. They're real, and it seems to be the case. So in 2013, that 900 students needed about 33 regular classrooms. That's one of the benchmarks that we look at to make sure that you have the right number of classrooms, not too many, not too few. If you were a DOE-funded project, that's something that they would look at very, very closely. So of those 33, 28 classrooms, or 85% of them, are extremely small. The standard for the Department of Ed in Maine is 800 square feet for a regular classroom. And that's a good standard. That's a good middle-of-the-road standard, not too big, not too small. It allows for a lot of different kinds of teaching. It's a size that is economical to build, and if you have bulges that move through the school district, at that size you can accommodate 2, 3, 4 extra kids in a year while that bulge passes through. Instead, what you have in those 28 classrooms out of the 33, they range in size from 520 square feet to about 700 square feet, with a lot of them in the 500 and 600 square foot range. In 2013, what they decided to do was to leave those classrooms at the size that they were, even though they're very small. If you put 24 high school students in a 500 or 550, 600 square foot classroom, that's a very, very crowded room. But to save money, that's what they did back then. There were 4 modular classrooms at the time that were intended to be put inside of the regular building. So compare that for a second as I go down with the 2019 proposal, 1,100 students, so a number of additional students. Total regular classrooms 41 instead of 33 is the number needed. And I'll talk about how that compares with other high schools in the state in a moment. The decision was made for this first pass through the design to right-size those regular classrooms to be at about the 800 square foot number that the state recommends in order to make your teaching programs more flexible and make the rooms more flexible. That's something that may have to change, but that was one of the driving factors. And you now have 6 modular classrooms outside, so you have more classrooms that have to come in because of the increase in population. The number of science rooms is another benchmark. In 2013, you were proposing to have 10, and you have 10 proposed right now. What that means is you have 8 already, and you'd add 2 in order to get to that 10 to accommodate that population. You have 1 music room in 2013, and the proposal now is to have a separate music and chorus room. The chorus room is a big room, but it's impossible to double schedule chorus and music together, obviously, because of the acoustic issues. In 2013, you had 2 art rooms, now you have a 3rd. All high schools that I've been involved in that are at the 1,100 student level typically have 3 classrooms because you need that many classrooms to take care of all the kids that need to take art for graduation. 2013, you had 1 gym, the one that you still have right now. The proposal in the 2019 is to add a 2nd gym. It's much smaller than the main gym that you have, but it's a regulation court size, so you can play varsity games, JV games. It's great for PE. At 1,100 students, you have, PE is a requirement. You have so many sections of PE that you have to teach that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to do it with only 1 gym. Because what happens is you lower the gym divider curtain, each gym becomes 2 teaching spaces, so then you have 4 teaching spaces instead of only 2. The other thing it does for you is if you have 2 gyms at your 1,100 student population size, it allows the students that are practicing after school, volleyball, basketball, field hockey is over there right now practicing. It gives you more spaces to practice, which means that the kids can do their practices and get home and do their homework, hopefully, in a much earlier time in the evening than would normally be possible if you only have 2 practice spaces. So that can be a big deal. PE lockers were undersized. They're the size that you are now in 2013, but they did propose to recreate the athletic lockers. If you know, the athletic lockers are over here on the other side of that wall, and they're very, very small, which is amazing because you have such robust athletic programs. So in the 2019 proposal, the PE lockers would be expanded, and then both the athletic and the PE lockers would be expanded in 2019, but only athletics in 2013. There was no PE classroom at the time. PE again is a classroom that needs a space. You can also teach health in there. So a classroom was added in the 2019 proposal in order to make that happen. Library in 2013 was undersized for that population. The proposal in 2019 is to upsize the library to the size it would be by DOE standards. Because again, originally the library was built for 750 students, and now you're planning a building that will have eventually 1,100 students. So the library is already small. Cafeteria was expanded in 2013 and the same now. The kitchen was left alone. Looking at the study, we're expanding the kitchen a little bit to add a few things like freezer space and some storage space in order to make it work better. And because of the overall population, we're adding a serving line. Right now there's one serving line, and in the renovation that's proposed, you have 2 serving lines so the kids can get through getting their meals and eating them much, much quicker. Tech ed classrooms were undersized. They're being expanded in this proposal, and they're being consolidated. They're kind of spread all through the building right now. So the 3 tech ed teachers oftentimes share equipment and systems and work together quite a bit. So having them all in one area is an advantage. Special ed was expanded back then and now. The administration offices were expanded back then and now. Back then, from what I've been able to read from the study, there wasn't a significant upgrade in the security systems. I mean, they were pretty good already, but they left it alone. In this proposal, what's being suggested is to move the main entrance of the building from Morrill Avenue over here over to the other side of the building facing the parking lot, because that's where all the parking is, and that's where the bus drop-off is. And typically, in any new or renovated school, when you can, you try to get the main entrance, create a significant security vestibule with bullet-resistant glass and things like that, and you try to put that where everybody is coming in so that you can monitor everybody that comes into the building. So in this proposal, we would do that. There would be some renovations to the front, and the overall security would be enhanced. We'd be upgrading the systems in the new addition. The existing security system we had in terms of things like cameras and door latches and motion sensors. The existing building is pretty good already. Back then, one of the potential big costs of any major renovation is the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, sprinkler systems, all the technical systems, as Chris said, that are behind the walls and ceiling that you don't see, but are essential for your safety and indoor air quality and things like that. So it looks like at that time, in 2013, they were going to essentially put new systems in the new areas that they built in the high school, but not do a systemic upgrade all through the building, which is what the proposal is in 2019. And the reason for that proposal is that their systems are at the end and sometimes beyond their natural life. You've got a boiler already in the high school that needs to be replaced, one of 2. And you'll realize significant energy efficiency savings if you can afford to upgrade your systems all the way through. For example, one of the proposals in the 2019 is to do LED lighting everywhere in the building. There may possibly be some grant money that can help with that, although that grant money in the state of Maine has waffled back and forth. Sometimes it's abundant, sometimes it's non-existent, but it's something that we would be looking at. But just doing that alone would have a significant impact on your operating costs for dollars per square foot cost. The other thing that we proposed to do in the 2019 system is to replace all the existing windows. If you walk around the building and go in classrooms, you'll see a lot of windows they're just old. It's old technology. They're not as energy efficient on their own as they are now. And some of them the frames are warped a little bit, and all it takes is a little bit of a warping of the frame so that the sills and the window frames don't meet, and so cold air just comes in all the time. And so there's a difficult to measure, but undoubtedly a premium that you're paying to heat the building because of those windows. So typically, when you can, that's a great thing to try to replace. And in terms of parking, back in 2013, they had a scheme that had 462 spaces, and the one that we've been working with has about 442, so pretty close there. So again, the main difference between 2013 and now is population, 200 more kids, which drives the number of classrooms, the number of science labs, and other things. A second gym instead of just one, and expanding library and cafeteria and kitchen and some of those other spaces, and then the whole upgrade of all the existing systems in the building so that basically the building would be almost like new at the end of that. So that's the difference in the two in a nutshell. Plus, the market now is much worse than it used to be. So again, the initial estimate, which is not a number, it's just the first edition of all the pieces. We have an estimate from a professional estimator that has over 1,400 line items. We're still going through that to do what we call vetting the estimate, where we make sure that it's accurate, that it's not overcounting or undercounting. We're calling suppliers and vendors ourselves to make sure that, say, $1 per square foot number that's being carried in that estimate is again, not too much, and see if it can be cut back. So we have a whole team of people in the office that are working on the current estimate, as well as a group of people that are looking at, beginning to look at alternatives to the original scheme. And one of the things we want to do tonight is to get feedback from all of you of things that you would like us to consider in terms of alternative schemes. So $77.4 million for the construction, $97.7 million for what they call the total project cost. But again, it's not a final number at all. It's a place to start. So this is just a drawing that was part of the package of stuff that went to the estimators, where we broke the building up into areas of similar construction. Some are new, some are renovation, but they're similar sorts of things. So at the top of the drawing is all the athletic additions, the second gym, renovating the existing PE lockers and building new athletic lockers. Orange is that new security entrance and renovations to the admin that I talked about. The yellow to the left is the expansion of the cafeteria and kitchen. The blue in the center across the hall from the cafeteria is a proposed lecture hall. The beige color in the middle is all existing space, which is being heavily renovated, again, along the premise of trying to upgrade everything top to bottom of the building. They're taking the opportunity to do that. The yellow is a new classroom wing, 2 stories high. And over on the far lower left, in the lighter blue, is a proposed new facilities area. The proposal is to move it out of the middle school because the middle school is growing as well, and it's going to need that space in the near future. So we thought that looking at it as relocating to the high school would be a good thing to study, because typically that's where district-wide facilities areas, the offices and all the storage and ordering, those kinds of things, so they're usually typically at the high school. Second floor, just pretty much a duplicate of the first. We worked very hard to stack the yellow classroom wing on top of the first floor and line everything up, all the plumbing, all the electrical, the walls, all that kind of stuff to make it more efficient. So recognizing that the overall number is much too high, what we also wanted to do is to compare some other metrics for looking at what the size of the building is, as well as the cost of the building. So this may be hard to read, but the Gorham High School, 1,100 students in this current configuration is 293,000 square feet. So you look at what we call the building and pad cost. What is just the building itself and this foundation underneath it, not counting any site work. That's at about $264 a square foot. So that's one of the metrics we look at. The closest one we could compare is the Edward Little High School. We can compare because it's another project in our office, so I have access to all the drawings and all the estimate data. It's still being estimated. I think in this week or the next week, the Department of Ed is going to make a final determination of what they're going to fund. But like your high school, Edward Little High School has 1,100 high school students. What it has that you don't have is it also has about 250 Voc-Tech students there. So it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. And I'm working with the project manager on that project to try to separate out the high school piece from the Voc-Tech piece so that we can compare it more exactly with Gorham High School. Their building and pad cost is about $245 a square foot. Yours is $264. Their total project cost is $446 a square foot. Yours, in the current, unedited estimate, is $329. So again, some of that extra for Edward Little has to do with being a Voc-Tech, but I think when we compare high school to high school, we'll find that the current number, although too high, is within the range of other large schools that are being funded now in the state. Again, that's not to say that we won't reduce because we're working very hard on that. A second way of looking at numbers is looking at other buildings that you know of and adding inflation to their original budgets to bring them up to current. This is a little less precise because inflation goes up and down. But we get a comparison for Great Falls, which in 2010, when it was budgeted and started construction, was a $20,500,000 project. If you go from 2010 to 2020, next year, when this project in theory would go to bid, 3% per year inflation, which is a good average over time, would make Great Falls a $27.5 million project instead of $20.5 million. Since Great Falls is an 85,500 square foot school, then you translate that out and say, okay, what would the dollar per square foot cost of Great Falls be if it were under construction next year? Well, it would be $322 a square foot, and Gorham High School in this current budget is $329 a square foot. And it's a high school instead of an elementary school. High schools are usually more expensive. So again, just in terms of pure numbers, not out of the range, not too high, not too low in terms of other projects, but definitely too high for your current needs and your current budget. So one other way to look at these numbers is the number of regular classrooms and the number of science labs. So Gorham High School, again, 41 regular classrooms, 10 science labs. Scarborough High School, which we did a few years ago, 44 regular classrooms, 12 science labs for 1,200 students. And South Portland, with 1,100 students, 40 regular classrooms and 12 science labs. So again, you're right in the middle of the pack in a reasonable place in terms of number of teaching spaces for your population projection. So we'll have to figure out ways to reduce costs and not to lose those spaces so that it can still be the school that you need for the kids that are coming. Another way of looking at it is the total square feet per student. And so the table in the lower part of that slide shows that when you divide everything out, the proposal right now in 2019 is 266 square feet per student. Compare that to South Portland at 284, Scarborough High School at 251, Kennebunk High School at 290, Wells High School at 258, and Yarmouth High School is the outlier at 213. I'm not sure exactly why that is. So again, in terms of square feet per student for an 1,100 student high school, you're right in the middle of the pack again. So again, we'll have to be very careful and creative to try to make everything more efficient and less expensive and still be able to do all the things that we achieve for kids. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Daryl.
Again, I told you I was going to say this again, and it's up there on the slide. This is the initial estimate of over $96 million. It's not the end of the story. This is not the number that will be coming through to the public as we continue through this process. We know that that number is not going to be coming to the public. It's not going to make it through the building committee. When it was presented to the building committee originally, the conversation already started as to what are our other options. So the building committee will continue to move through their process as we go forward. So this is still the beginning part of the process. We have many, many more steps to go before we do anything and present any further real proposals or final proposals through the building committee to the school committee in the first step. So what we are going to be doing as a building committee is we're going to be working with Harriman, and Dan will be meeting with us quite a bit to reduce the scope and find the best balance between the total project costs and meeting student needs. So again, like I said earlier, what we looked at before anything was what would we like to have to meet the needs of our students with the growing population that we have here in Gorham. We put that into the original project. That is what was estimated for us. Now that we've seen that number, there are ways that we can make adjustments and ways in which we will be making adjustments to try to still meet the needs of our students, but try to be as fiscally responsible as we can with the money that us, the taxpayers, are going to have to actually pay for. And as we go through the process, if it gets to a point where it doesn't make any sense on the budget side to bring the project forward, then that's an option that we went through this process and it's not something that we're able to do at this time. Or if we get to a point where the budget is good, but we're not going to meet the needs of the students, then that's another reason why we wouldn't move forward. Because why would we want to move forward on a project when in a few years we may have to look at doing something else and making additions at that time. So we are looking for the long-term benefits to the students and trying to keep the cost of the taxpayers as low as we can while still meeting those needs. So this, again, is a first step as we continue talking with the building committee. I know there are members of the building committee sitting in here as well. That we're going to continue to work through that process with Harriman to try to come up with some options. But we do want to ask for the feedback from the public and all the stakeholders in the town, from the school committee, town council, public, business owners, everything to see what we can come up with and some different solutions that we may be able to come up with to help get what we need at a cost that actually is something that we can afford. So, and oh yeah, I just went through that. So yeah, we're going to be looking to move forward while reducing costs. Skip right over that. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring back the results of the building committee work with the bottom line costs using our current design as our basis. We're going to collect all this feedback and identify 5 to 6 themes. There may be more, there may be less, but probably around 5 or 6 for ideas on how to move forward and maybe look at moving in a different direction. And then what we're doing on the building committee is going to share with the town council in mid to late June to determine next steps and what we're going to do moving forward. So there is still the process that's going on. There is a part that will go to the school committee to get their feedback as well, and then it will be brought back to the town council for a presentation as to where we go and what direction we continue to go through. We've been working very well with the town council. We have many town councilors that sit at these building committee meetings and have been providing input throughout, and will continue to do so is my expectation, because they've been very vocal in our meetings as we go through this, and now we really need to sharpen our pencils and find out what we can do to meet the needs of our students in a fiscally responsible way. So looking forward to hearing the feedback and comments from the public here tonight and as we move forward. And
Thanks. I did want to say thank you to all the people that have served on the building committee since 2009 to now. A lot of countless hours of work, a lot of evenings, a lot of sharing ideas, a lot of thinking, and And sometimes that's thankless work, so I do appreciate all the time and effort people put into this project. And our work continues, because obviously we're not quite ready. So at this time, there are 2 mics. I invite anyone that wants to speak to come up and share an idea, ask a question, give your thoughts. We do want to share the air, give everyone a chance that wants to have a chance to speak. Ryan Watts, assistant principal here at the high school, is going to try to jot down the themes or questions so we keep track of them, so we can answer them also online for the rest of the public that isn't here. We'll all be here after as well if you have individual questions, if you want to come up and look at the designs closer and talk to us about them. So those are all options. Anyone that would like to come on down, please just state your name into the mic and share your thoughts, your questions, whatever you like. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Brian DeVos. I'm on Herrick Road. I want to echo Chris's thanks to the committee. I know it is sometimes thankless work, and I know there's a lot of time and effort put into that. And I say that as a preface to this because I don't want this question to sound like I'm questioning things that the committee was thinking about. But I think you said, Chris, that decision was made early on that staying here was the right decision for economic reasons. And yet it seems like everybody's very, very surprised at the total cost of this project. So I guess my question is, how do we reach the conclusion that this was the right place to do it? And are we knowing now what we know, rather than just trying to skim down the scope of this? Are we going to take a step back and say, is this really the most economic place to do it?
Yeah, good question, Brian. Hope Point's Associates did a study on this. We have it, I believe it's posted online. I actually have it in my bag. I can share it with you. They did a whole comparison of the options and looked at them. And staying at this site and renovating was the cheapest, although they're all expensive, option. But I think as we move forward, we are going to have to look at all options. We put a lot into this, you're right, but we've got to think and make a good decision. So we're not just going to keep going to keep going. That's foolish. But I'm happy to share that with you, and I'll make sure that study's online too, so everyone can see it.
Lisa Bolduck, and I live on Sylvan Road, and before that I lived on Morrill Avenue. I want to add to his comment about staying at this site. I went onto the town's tax database, and when you look at this land owned by the town, it's at 23 acres. That houses the Baxter Memorial Library, the Shaw School, Roby Park and the preschool, and the Gorham High School. If you look up the address for the Gorham Middle School, it has 59 acres, 59.1 acres. So in my head, I cannot understand why we're trying to build this high school to fit 1,100 students on this small piece of property that already houses so many other things. The other thing is, this plan is assuming they can close the access road. I called the state of Maine DOT, and they tell me the access road runs from Morrill Avenue to near Dancing Street. And you're proposing, this proposal here, is to close a section of access road. That will need to meet certain requirements, and I don't know how we can move ahead thinking you can do that unless you know you can. Unless you know ahead of time that you're going to be getting approval from someone in Augusta. The other thing I want to say is, and you've heard this and you've seen it in the paper, but it was a real sleight of hand, or I'll quote, a slippery slope on the way that the easement was removed from Roby Park. And I would really think twice about taking that part. I have many other concerns here. I'm not concerned with expanding, adding some, classrooms, relocating your entrance. Those are all valid, but I cannot see you expanding at this site, just given the amount of space. I don't know if Harriman's aware that there's 59.1 acres I think that's enough for a middle school and high school. Thank you.
Well, thanks for your feedback very much. Do you want to address the traffic study?
Yeah.
So I think that's a fair question about access road.
Gorham Palmer, which is a very highly respected traffic engineer in Southern Maine, who we've worked with for decades, is doing a traffic study right now to look at the very question that you just raised. We're closing a section of access road in the current proposal, but we're also upgrading Ballpark Road so that you will have the same continuous road with 2 accesses in and out of the site that you have right now. So we'll see what the regulatory agencies say about that. I mean, you're right that we need to have a better idea about what it means, but we're not. I think it's not correct to say that we're closing something off and thereby reducing your access to the site, because that's not what we're doing. Most high schools in the state that we've worked with have 2, sometimes 3 access to a high school site, and you will continue to have that. Both of your accesses are very, very good sight lines, big wide roads, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll see what the traffic engineer says, and that'll be a public document. So when that's done, it'll go on the website, and all of us can talk about it at a future meeting.
Good evening, my name is Mike Chabot, and I live on Laurel Ave. I have a quick question. I know there was a study that was done 5-6 years ago. Did that study incorporate moving into the footprint of Roby Park, or was it just preliminary work at that point in time?
It did not involve going on the road.
Thank you. I bring that up because we're looking at as much information as possible to find on town records, meeting minutes, and checking in the newspaper. I'm not entirely convinced that the deed restriction change on Roby Park was done properly. And I'm bringing it up because I know it's been a ton of work, and it just seems really a shame that something like this is bubbling up at this late hour of the game. There was no public notice that I had been able to find leading up to the very first time that this topic came up at the town council. And from everything I understand, a long time is what is used for typical public notices. I looked at the additions prior to that meeting. Nothing, no public notices per se. There's no notice that went out to a bunch of folks that live on the peripheral of Roby Park. I don't actually collect the park, but I obviously have neighbors and friends that do. There was no notice of what's going on. I appreciate the work that you folks have done here to be as transparent as possible can be, but I really don't think the town council was with the citizens of this town. When the first item that actually perpetuated the change of the deed restriction to Roby Park was put forward, they asked the town lawyer to go ahead and do the work to kind of pave the way to basically allowing the town to do what they want with that piece of property. When the lawyer got all their work done, there was a very cryptic public notice that was put in the Gorham Times that basically said it was a miscellaneous notice. And if you really look at it, there's absolutely no indication at all that there's any impacts to Roby Park that are going to be playing out as a result of that notice. And to call it a miscellaneous notice versus a public notice just in itself seems to be a little quirky. Upon the lawyer completing the work, that notice went out. There was a final public hearing. Again, nothing in the papers to notify the public, nothing sent out to the abutters. The motion passed. It didn't even pass. It was just a public hearing which was closed because nobody knew about it. So I don't know how you start off a process that's really predicated on that part being available. And I fully understand the need here, okay? But the processes and foundation for a lot of that work wasn't done, at least in my opinion, in a very good way. And it may have been legal, but it certainly doesn't make it right. And again, I appreciate your transparency with all the work you folks are doing, but I wish they had done their homework right at this point. So, just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it very much.
I don't know, I just want to make sure that everybody here is aware that in order to make this happen in Gorham Park, that Gorham Park would have to be clear-cut and regraded in order to get tennis courts and basketball courts, and in the addition to high school. And the extra lighting that will be needed. And I don't know if that's apparent. I think it would be appreciated.
Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
My concern with the project is traffic. Today, you would not get an ambulance or a fire truck at the height of your school time entering or leaving down my road, because there's no way cars going down and up the buses will not get anybody down into my house or my neighbors, or God forbid anything happens at the school at the time of exiting or entering, you will not get the ambulance or that fire truck down with buses lined up all the way down. Thank you.
Thank you again. Traffic is a great concern. Thank you.
Good evening. I'll be as brief as possible. First, I want to let you know that I'm just not an angry old taxpayer. Again, my name is Jim Means. My wife and I have lived in Maine for 37 years, the last 24 in Vermont. We raised our 3 sons here, who all doing well in chosen careers. You need to know that my wife and I are very strong proponents of quality education. For many years, I served on the Board of Trustees, chaired the Development Committee, which is fundraising, and was vice chairman and chairman of the board of a private high school located in Portland, less than 15 miles from me. Before, during, and after that tenure, we gave freely of our time, talent, and treasure. In that capacity, we worked with Gorham Associates. That's not my wife, but and we did 2 projects. The first was to convert residential living space into 17 classrooms that we needed for our expanding student population. The other was to build our full-size gym. Both projects were delivered ahead of schedule, under cost, and were of much higher quality than we had originally envisioned. We also renegotiated our labor agreements, teachers' contracts, terminated our president, and transitioned to replacement. So I think you can conclude, as I have, that I'm pretty committed to quality education. I've given a lot of time in that regard. At the same time, I was busy developing and operating over 100 multi-million-dollar commercial real estate investments located in 35 states. I know a fair bit about development. I think, and I didn't have this scripted, but it occurs to me that we're really trying to shoehorn a very large project into a very small site. I think I didn't use high schools this size. Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they expect to be on something like 40 acres. Does that sound like correct?
There is no standard for that anymore. The DOE used to have a standard, but best planning practices finds a lot of high schools remaining in the center of towns in order to promote bike riding and walking to school and not relying totally on driving. So there is no standard that I know of right now, and I think that this site can take an addition regardless of what configuration it may end up being eventually. But I think, obviously it's up to the community to decide if they want to do that here or not. But I think it's a feasible site.
Okay. Obviously, we're all shocked at the price tag $97 million. That being said, I think it's time to step back and look at this project from a 30,000 foot level. The school website says that we have a 9-year window to approve and construct a project. It will not be needed to meet growing enrollment until 2017. So I think the first question we need to ask is, why is the school committee timeline pushing for the November 19 referendum? Why are we rushing into this? According to the information that Heather delivered to me a couple of days ago, her numbers differ a little bit from Dan's. She outlines the differences between the 5-year-old plan that was shelved, being designed for 950 students, the current one being for 1,100. Does that 1,100 include the expansion of the second floor?
Yes.
As that rises?
Yes, it
So
is.
that's not initially 1,100, that's eventually 1,100?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing your
The
question.
new wing has got a second floor with classrooms that are not going to be built out of the initial build. Is that correct?
So Jim, if you're asking, are we looking to occupy the second floor classrooms? Is that what you're?
If this project is constructed, the day it opens, it's accommodating how many students?
It would be up to, the day it opens, it would be able to accommodate the full 1,100. So we would build the second floor plan. This would be built to be occupied.
Okay, because I thought Heather said at our first public forum.
It's over the facilities.
Okay.
We could build additional future classrooms
Beyond 1,100.
beyond 1,100
Okay.
if needed.
Okay, all right, I understand, thank you. Of course, the huge difference between the two plans is the plan that was shelved and tabled. For what we were told at the time was because of the pressing need of the public safety building improvement. Not for any other reason, it was in the neighborhood of 17 million. And now the alarm bell is going off at 97 million. So if you grow the 17 to 20 or so, my question is, why are we even entertaining spending much more than $20 million today? Why are we expanding the building 100% or 30% anticipated enrollment growth? Again, those numbers, as Heather said in our last meeting, declined for a few years, and they don't reach 950 until the year 2027. I know time goes by fast, but again, it just seems like we're rushing into this. We're off a large expenditure. One of your former school committee members said when they agree, other than the square footage, it does not sound terribly different than what was put forward when I was on the committee just 5 years ago. That's from John Doyle. Okay, so let's say the project, you really work hard to get this project down to $50 million, which is highly doubtful. So let's just look at the economic impact of that. According to the town of Gorham's finance office, a $50 million expenditure will cost the taxpayer with a home value of $250,000 an additional $600 a year out of the gate in school taxes. It does not include any operation costs, no teachers, nothing more. I think some schools will estimate at least 40 or 50% on top of that. Another way to look at that is that 75% or so of our budget is in labor. And using your own division and imagine what the operational costs are going to be and what the taxes are going to be. Now, $600 a year, that may not sound like much, but when you go to get a mortgage, your underwriter is going to qualify you for a loan that's $10,000 lower than you would today. Another way to look at it is that in order to meet a $600 obligation under mortgage rating standards set forth by the federal government, you would have to have an immediate pay increase of $2,000. Obviously, we're talking about a big magnitude here. Not to say anything about the people who are on fixed income. We have no way of raising that additional money. Some of our best citizens are in that boat. Going forward, I'm going to call again for what we lack in this town. And I've had conversations with the town chair about this. I've had conversations with the school committee. We do not have a strategic plan. We should be looking at all our school facilities, not looking at building by building, because we know that village school is right around the corner. And I think Heather said as soon as the first one is approved, she's going to go after that. We also have to think about how education is going to be delivered in the near future. In all likelihood, there will be changes to the current classroom and teaching configurations. Technology disruptors will challenge the status quo because we're all demanding more efficient, responsive, individually tailored services that are being delivered today. If you think about it, education is one of the last industries in this country to be transformed. And we have to be thinking about ways to pave the future instead of blocking the road. Right now, teachers, unions, and administrators are blocking that road. But imagine if your child could choose from 2,000 electives taught by the very best people in the world at a far lower cost than is delivered by any teacher that happens to choose to live and work in Gorham. Think about the fact that we're probably not going to need all the brick and mortar that we're building today in the near future. How long is that? Is that 2027? And we need this new school edition? Is it longer than that? Is it earlier than that? We encourage everybody to read the history of Lysander Solander, doing the U.S. Postal Service had a monopoly. He came out with a method to deliver postage across the country for about 1/3 of what the government was doing. The government quickly put them out of business and then took over the postal carriers and unified the country and gave us efficient, inexpensive postage delivery. There's going to be disruptions that are going to happen in education, and may not be in my lifetime, I hope it is, but certainly in Chris's lifetime. It will be in most parents' lifetime. And no one in Gorham is seriously looking at it. So those are my 2 cents. I look forward to the future of Gorham.
Jim, thank you. I just want to clarify a couple things. The timeline for November is just a timeline that we set because when you go into a project, you look for an end goal. There's nothing saying that we're going to push this through for a vote in November. We're still going through the process, and if it comes to the point where we need to push it back maybe to a next June referendum, those decisions haven't been made. That was just the plan. We were trying to get things done for November.
It's still on the website as of today.
Right, and it's still that we're trying to see if we can get to a decision by then, but that's not kind of we are going there regardless of what the process is. So that's just an end date as of right now. That can change. So I just want to, we're not trying to push this through to the November, so I just want to clarify that. And the other piece was the issue that we're talking about, and we had a joint meeting with the town council and the school committee, talking about the needs, and to your conversation and your recommendation about doing the strategic plan of our buildings. We had a conversation with the town council about what we need for our buildings, not looking just at the school buildings, but also at municipal buildings. And what we're trying to come up with now, the conversations that are going on based on that meeting, is putting together some sort of task force or group to talk about what are our building needs on the municipal sides, or what are our needs on the municipal side as well as the school side. What are the timing of those needs, and how can we strategically look to plan for handling those needs over in the future? So that is something that we're working on actively with the town council. And the school that we're struggling with next is not Village, it's going to be Narragansett. Okay. And that's one of the things that the school committee is looking at right now with the budget and everything that we're going through that we'll be voting on at our meeting in April, is going to be looking to start putting modulars at the Narragansett location to handle the growth needs that we have. So it's going to be, Narragansett is the one that we're looking at, the kind of the next school need.
Thank you for that clarification. Again, I think what we deserve is a strategic plan that looks at all the facilities simultaneously rather than picking project by project. Yep. Because from the taxpayer's point of view, it's, here comes another referendum. You know, as far as the school project, I think we all want a great product. I think most of us will support a good product. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to support a project that doesn't make any sense. And I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of mistrust after a $50 million number was whispered about every place. And when they opened up their paper and they saw 97. They haven't paid close attention to the project. They don't know what's going on. They've just seen, initially the project that we showed 5 years ago was predicted to be at 11, came out at 17, now they're at 97. And the people I have coffee with are saying, how the blank did we go from 11 million to 97? And these are not only taxpayers, but they're really your customers because they're paying tax for it.
Yep, and again, I will restate that $97 million is not a final number.
No,
So and it was a surprise to all of us that got that as well. I understand what you're saying.
But see, even a $50 million number has severe economic impact on a lot of people. And it affects everybody in town who wants to buy a house, sell a house, and pay a mortgage. Those are real underwriting factors that are used every day when people get a loan.
I do lending every day of my professional career, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Translation, you know as well as I do, but that's the impact. I mean, you can't make the numbers up. You look at the mortgage tables, look at the monthly pay, and there it is.
Yep. No, but there is a strategic kind of conversation that is happening and will be, or hasn't started yet, but is happening. The school committee has been in conversation about the needs of the school district and the facilities for a while. But we're kind of looking at ways to more formalize that, to have a conversation to the strategic planning long-term for the town of Gorham and all of the buildings and needs that the whole municipality has, not just the school. So we are looking to move down that road as well.
Right.
Thank you, Jim.
And I think somebody should be looking at a 20-year plan as well. And then, if technology doesn't do what I think it's going to do, then what do we do? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
My name is Philip Smith. I live on Ospey Trail, about 5 miles out of town, in a home that was, they say, was built in 1780. I moved out to Gorham in 1980 or so, and I was from a small town before, and I used to get so frustrated with traffic jams, even back then, getting through over by O'Donnell's and getting through town. And now it's, almost 40 years later, and it doesn't seem any better. And I look around, even the property that I bought, it used to be a farm, 300 acres or so. I look out my back window, I can see 18 homes. And if you drive around any of the farmland, it used to be farmland, now it's all subdivisions. Even in places that I think are wet, places where habitat is wet. And from my point of view, it seems like development has run this town. And the smallness of the town that I knew, and I've only been out here since 1980, is going away. And so if we do, even if we could afford it, and I'm a clinical social worker, I work with elderly people. The whole push for elderly people is to age in place, stay in their homes, because it costs a fortune to go to assisted living. But if the taxes keep going up and up, there's no place for them to go. But I don't understand why it is that even after we do this, in a few years, that school may not be big enough. Why it is that we continue to seem like, and I'm not involved enough to know for sure what I'm talking about, it seems like we're just open-ended development, and now we're stuck spending millions to take care of that. And if the town would consider, if we're going to build schools to match what we're going to have for kids in the next few years, whether we should have a moratorium on development until it's paid for. And if new development isn't added until we figure out beforehand taxpayers end up trying to fix the mess now. I have my two kids here, they're straight A students. One's in middle school, one's in village, and they have the best education I could dream for. The teachers are lovely, and as far as getting an education off the internet from somebody who's grant, I don't care so much about that. I care that the teachers are here and they have a personal relationship with my kids. That's more important. But so they have a great education. I think we should have a large enough school. But even I can't wrap my mind around $96 million. I have a tough enough time spending $150 at Hanford's every week. $96 million seems like all of the developers and the people who profited off all of this development ought to be pitching in toward the cost of this, because they're the ones that gain the most from the development. So, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing those comments. And as a school department, we are feeling the pressures from that growth. People come to Gorham because it's a great place to be, it's a great place to raise a family, it's a great place to send kids to school. And I think we're all feeling that. So I agree, collectively we need to figure it out because we're all in this together. And I do appreciate your kind words about your students' education. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lynn O'Leary. I live on Main Street, across from Narragansett. As I was sitting here, Ken Sickett is one of my neighbors, and I'm thinking, if there were a crisis at this school, you can't get 2 regular cars up and down Access Road, Memorial Avenue, Ball Park. However, would you address a fire or some major event? And it just seems like this site, and I'm not an engineer, it just seems like when you think Narragansett, Weeks Road, you've got big open space, you've got space for emergency vehicles, you've got space, for safety. And it seems like here, crowding it in, and there might be better use for this building and start fresh. I know I have an old house. And anytime you want to try to retrofit an old building, it costs more than it is starting from scratch. Probably the same one here. But, not that I'm trying to be negative, and Kenny might have more input, but just thinking of emergency vehicles trying to get there, they wouldn't be able to. So that's my concern, my thought. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And safety is a paramount concern for us too. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Noah Meyer. I live over on Reed Street. I'm kind of a butter to this project. And as much as it's in my backyard and it's going to be big and it's going to change, I think it should be here. I think that is really important. I think that Gorham is becoming an urban center. It already is an urban center. And we have bus service now, we have a university, we have lots of traffic, and we have all the other headaches that go with being a small city, which is what we're becoming. I mean, I don't know what our population is up to now, but it's a lot more than when we moved here. It's going to be hard to talk. Urban classrooms are smaller. My wife takes French at Deering High. They sit in small chairs. The paint peels. It's an urban school. It's what it is. So that's just my comment on that. I got a bunch of random comments, and I apologize for my randomness, but I just jotted stuff down. You guys will help Brian. I'll do my best. I'll try to go slow. This came up before, and Daryl may be able to answer this one again. Is Great Falls at 20 million. When Ted Sharp was up here pitching wherever he was pitching the project, and he's like, well, we're going to get X, Y, Z in state funding. granted, that's our money too, and, you know, but it's not our, it's somebody else paid those taxes, not us, and we're due for our state funding. You know, and I kind of snickered because I don't like taxes and it comes out of somebody's pocket, but he was right. It'd be nice if we could do something to maybe get state funding. I don't know how many years or lack of classroom space that would take, but that would be nice. So maybe an explanation there. You may have already done that 100 times, but impact fees, which addresses this gentleman's issue with development. Another political football that I don't like, but it, you know, right now it sounds pretty good to charge newcomers an extra premium to develop here. Don't stop them from building. Just charge them another $2 or $3 grand to get a building permit and put it towards the high school. We've done it for other things. I don't know if the council would entertain that. I mean, we do it for sewer and water and recreational impact fees. Cindy's got a project going on at the schools or the Narragansett with impact fee money to build something. Shared gym facilities. I think Ron Shepherd brought this up. We have a gym across the way. I don't know if Cindy uses it, but then you don't have to build another gym here. You could send the kids over to the municipal center and share. Roby Park. I disagree with some of my neighbors that it was done sleight of hand. It was public record. I saw it in the town council agenda. It goes out. I don't think it was done with the intent to deceive. I think it was just done. I don't think you should take Roby Park. I think Roby Park could be saved if you put the turf field at the Narragansett School. There's a big property there. They were thinking about putting a turf field there when the big guy, the town councilor, can't remember his name, Matt Robinson, wanted to have a referendum to put a turf field over there. And then you could push the school the other direction. Recreational impact fees, talk about that. I don't like the idea of closing access road, if that's what you call it. That would, you know, moving the turf field over there, you could leave the road for access. Send the kids out for lunch. The high school kids, let them go for lunch during the day. To go out to lunch. Maybe you don't make the cafeterias big. I'm just random stuff. Back to the drawing board. Cut costs and eliminate the nice to haves. And I like Jim's idea of remote classrooms. That would save us some time in future money. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. So I will address the two questions that you had. One was the state funding. That is something that the superintendent has spoken out about several times. We tried to go, and she actually approached the state of Maine. The gentleman that is in charge of that, and based on the needs, he told us that we shouldn't even bother because there's no way that we would get state funding for the high school. In the future, who knows what's going to happen. But it is always something that's always part of the conversation. Like I said, we're looking at our next concern, which is Narragansett, and trying to deal with the growth in population at the elementary levels. It's already come to be part of the conversation as to what can we do to try to get ourselves higher on the list next time it comes out so we can put Narragansett on there. So it is always part of the conversation to try to get state funding when we can. It just wasn't an option this time around in what we were doing. The second one is the impact fees. It's a great conversation to have and bring to the town council because they're the ones that are having that conversation about impact fees. So that's not anything that we have control over or any input in. That is our town councilors that will do that, and that's something definitely I know is in the mind and part of conversations that may be happening. I don't know if they're where they stand or how far, if any, conversations have started, but that's where that will go. So those were the two big questions that you did.
I think Jim answered that though.
What's that?
There was a gym. You asked about the gym share, which is a great idea. Currently we do it a ton. We were doing bus duty earlier today, so we were kind of asking where everybody was going. Lacrosse was heading over to they were heading over to the rec center. I don't want to like Thanks. All right, I appreciate it. But the rec center is used for lacrosse preseason, and it works. It's just we have a lot of kids traveling a lot of directions, and I'm concerned personally about safety stuff. But we had a bunch of kids going over to the Gorham Sports Center. Then we had tryouts here in the gym, and then that's still there. We have another round happening tonight. So we are thinking creatively about how we use all of the gyms and points in the community, which is great. It's a good idea. We do use it.
Other comments?
People use that park to spend time and have picnics and play with their kids and things. And tennis courts get used like 10, 12 weeks a year, and it just seems like that's a big space, and we're losing a lot by putting the courts there. And I know that we do share those courts with USM, and I wonder if they could perhaps build some courts and we could share with them. I believe they used to have tennis courts like down on the bottom, right? Okay, I thought so. And I don't know why a university that has a tennis team doesn't have tennis courts. That kind of blows my mind. So, I would love to think creatively about that. And I also like removing access road. I mean, that I can go either way on that. Like, I definitely know that we need a bigger school. I'm never going to say no to a budget. Like, sure, if it's $96 million, that's fine with me. I'm probably going to be the only person that says that, but I'm not so concerned about the cost. Like, I know that education in schools are very expensive, so whatever, spend $100 million, my taxes will go up and I'll pay them, it's fine. But like, I also feel that this timeline is very wonky to me. It just feels like things are moving at this clip that I was unaware of. And I was also, like Mike has said, it felt kind of weird and shady the way that the easements were changed, and then all of this stuff just seems to be moving forward. And I read the Gorham Times pretty religiously, and I did not see some of those notices, and I know I may have just missed that issue. That's fine. I live right here. Nobody came and knocked on my door. There were no signs in the park that said, hey, we're thinking about taking half of this. I think that there are so many other ways the town could have communicated this to us. If you think of the readership, I adore the Times, but the readership of the Times is not 100%. It's not. I mean, that's just a very limited way to let your residents know that something major like this is happening. And I didn't know this was happening, and I happened to read the Times this week because it's on the front page. And so I was really surprised that this was the second meeting, and then to see your timeline and find out that there have been other meetings that I didn't know about. So I'm worried about the timeline of that, and also you said the November end date is a moving target, which I understand. I would love to see that fleshed out a little bit more of, okay, so we've got this one, or another drawing, then I need to see some more steps. That would be great. And I am fully in support of us expanding the high school. I think we can probably do it in other ways that will allow for compromise between us, the residents, and the school. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. We are trying so hard to communicate and be transparent, and that's a challenge. It's amazing with all the technology we have right now. We can't get the word out. Amazing. But go on our website. The whole GHS project is outlined there. All those historical things that have happened in the future. We will try even harder. Your words about transparency now. Anyone else that wants to step up, come on down.
Hello again, Suzanne Roberge. It was at the last meeting we had a month or so ago. I'm just curious, I haven't seen anywhere any research done on buildings somewhere else, the costs to compare. And I was just wondering if that was looked into. I mean, I kind of get the feeling that you thought that it would be more expensive, a higher budget, but has there been actual research done, and where could I find it? How can I, as a taxpayer, how can I compare what's what we're looking at. And then I can get more of the input or on board with it. I'm kind of been a proponent. I think definitely we need to grow and put in some bells and whistles, I guess. But I think I feel like it's like a cram down, putting everything in this space. And it might prove to be better if we look elsewhere at land and new building and the cost of that. And it's like Lynn said earlier, I think sometimes it is less to just rebuild. You buy more on at discounts and blah, 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 but it could come out less than just trying to fix what we have here.
Yeah, we definitely looked into that. I have that study right here. Others have a question about it. I believe it's on the website. But we looked at building in a new site in Gorham. We looked at flip-flopping the high school and middle school. We looked at renovating here. And this actually was the most cost-effective, though expensive. So I'm glad to share this with you. We'll definitely make sure it is on the website. But obviously, that's a fair question. We want to make sure that's answered. So, and if you want to stay after, we can read this together.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Great question. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Jim Edwards. I live on Sullivan Road. As I'm sitting here sort of listening, I have agreements to a lot of the things that folks are saying. And, you know, clearly for me too, traffic is a big issue here, and it's a couple times a day. But when I think about some of the football games that we've had, some of the soccer games that we've had at the track, some track events that we've had where buses come in from a lot of different communities, there's not enough parking for those events. And so when I look at this map, to me, the clear change that could be made that gives us the room to expand high schools to move the people. I know that we want to have a field beside the high school, but at the end of the day, we have 59 acres at a middle school with plenty of parking, with the opportunity for more parking. It'd be great to have a great turf field at the middle school, which could support big events and not have a parking issue. There is a danger to, even when the baseball team plays, the kids park down access road, the parents park down access road on both sides. There's enough room for one car to get through. If we ever had an issue where you had to get emergency equipment here, you couldn't do it. So, if we're set on the space, which I feel like we sort of are in some regards, the track, I think, just needs to go. We can leave some athletic fields here, but it just seems like the simplest thing would be to move the track to someplace where we can have a great facility. So that's just my thought. You guys are looking for feedback on how do we make this right, how do we fix this? I think that's it. I think that gives you space to grow now and in the future. Can we afford 96? No, but it gives us some space for cafeteria and some new classrooms or portables if that's what we have to do. And it gives us parking too. I mean, people want parking. So I feel like if you want space here, as much as I hate to see it, because I enjoy walking over to see a game, I think the track has to go somewhere else. I just, to see the place to do it. So that's my thought.
I'm John Durr, principal at the high school, and was asked if I would just share a couple comments about that. I was one of the people on the committee that really advocated to try to keep it here if possible. There's nothing more beautiful to me, all right, that may be hyperbole, but there's nothing more beautiful than a Friday night football game when the community's having dinner at Sebago or G-Hop or any other place downtown, and they walk up to the game. There's a really nice community by having the school and the athletic fields here in the village. I also think for our teachers who are working with kids after school or here correcting papers, and they leave and they go out to see a soccer game that's going on at 3:30 before they go home, and if we were to separate the fields, I don't know if it would have the same feeling. I worry that it won't. I think we have a really nice community here. But I also am reconciling, as you are, the need for parking. I experience it every day, the need for parking. So I think there's, as you suggest, there's a lot going on. And right now, Harriman is saying that we can fit it here. They're the experts, but I would love to be able to have it all here. Thank you very much.
My name is Terry Weber. I live on Camp Road in North Gorham. I'm kind of just questioning the scope of this project. We're talking about a 25% increase in enrollment. We're talking, I'm making the numbers up slightly, but we're talking about a 25% increase in enrollment, and we're looking at almost doubling the size of the high school. We're looking at increasing the classroom sizes substantially. And I'm just wondering why that is. We're going so big right out of the gate. Why we even got to that point to begin with, and we didn't keep this thing realistic at all. As far as the safety issue, as a business owner, there was zero chance the town of Gorham would allow me to build and have zero access for an ambulance and a fire truck to get down through. But this plan is going to have, there's no chance a fire truck can get down through here if it's an emergency now, as everybody said. And I wouldn't be afforded that ability if I was building a building, so why would they even consider that? Finally, my other concern is, if you look at the Sanford project, they just built a 330,000 square foot building, brand new from scratch, hot land, 127 acres, went through immense challenges with excavating and whatnot. So we're talking 35,000 square more than this project, completely brand new, for $101 million compared to our $97 million, including much more fields and whatnot than we have. So I don't even understand how, and I understand inflation and construction and all that, but how we're at 97 and they're at 101, and the staggering differences in what they got versus what we would get with a refurb. Why, I don't even understand how building brand new from scratch could be more money in comparison to that number. And Little was mentioned, because it's a refurb project, it just seems to me that building from scratch, if you compare the Sanford project, would come out ahead by far. If we kept it within what we actually need and not what this thing is, how we couldn't be far ahead of the game. That's it.
I want to try to at least answer that partially. I wasn't involved in the Sanford project, so I don't know a lot about it, but I know that it was budgeted a number of years ago. It was budgeted before this big spike in the construction market happened. The Edward Little School is an all-new school, and it is comparable in size and student population to Sanford, and is about to be budgeted by the DOE, and it looks like it's going to be somewhere between 123 million and 126 million. So that's the impact of inflation and the market on two buildings. So if the number is high, but again, I can't stress enough that 90-some-odd million number is not the number. We're in the process of finding out what the real number is at the same time that we're looking at alternatives and making cuts to do exactly what you're talking about.
Edward Little's 1,100 students, correct?
Yes.
Sanford's 1,800.
Okay. Well, all I can tell you is that Edward Little is being budgeted right now is 123 to 126 million, and the Sanford School was budgeted, I don't know, 4 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago now. So that was before this big bulge that happened at the end of 2017. So that's the difference. So anything that you look at now has to account for the market that's going forward. And again, 90 million is not the number for the school that's drawn there, but that number will be produced probably in May. We're working on it really hard right now, as well as alternatives to make the whole thing smaller.
I guess, again, I'm just confused as to why we even started up here. We're expanding this by 100% versus what we have right now, or 88%, or whatever the exact number is. And the needs of the student is going up 23, 25% of the student population. Why are we beginning wasting time and money being up here when we know that's not even what we need? Our needs aren't even close to that. Why is our starting point?
Well, I would argue that everything that's in this plan meets the current DOE standards. It doesn't mean that you have to build them to that size, but typically in any project in the state of Maine, whether it's locally funded or state funded, you would use the DOE square foot per student and square foot for various types of rooms, because it's a conservative standard that's tried and true for educational purposes. Again, you don't have to use those standards, but you always start at that area because that's considered best practices in terms of design. You're in a situation in this market where the cost of construction is crazy, and it's driven both by increases in material, but in particular by increases in the cost of labor. It's really hard to find qualified people up in this part of the U.S., and it's getting harder and harder and harder all the time. So I could go through the list of rooms with any of you at any time and show you, how it was planned out and how, again, it's similar and commensurate with any other high school of its size. But you don't have to build it that big, and $90 million is not the cost of the scheme that's being shown right there. And we'll come back to you with a vetted cost, as well as some alternative proposals to make it smaller, and probably to make it less expensive. You'll have to have smaller rooms, smaller classrooms, things like that, in order to reach a point somewhere where the budget is something the community can accept, and the features in the building is something that you need in the most efficient way possible. So we didn't start high, we started at the normal level for schools in the state of Maine. And again, you haven't built anything yet. Everything is still a concept level. And with all the data that we have now, it's relatively easy to model different alternatives, looking at different ways to do it that would be less expensive. So that's what we're doing right now.
I see some repeat customers, so before there's anyone that hasn't spoken that wants to. All right, go ahead.
I had a quick question. I was wondering if someone could explain to me that if removing the easement on Rotary Park was a zoning change, and how it would not be a zoning change.
So I will answer it with being honest and saying, I don't know. That is a town council function. So that would be a great question to ask the town council, one of our town councilors, on how that process is, if it's a zoning change. That's outside of my purview and our purview of what we're doing. So I would recommend at the next council meeting, or email your councilors, or to get that answer as to what that would be.
So in the lovely little packet, it says that this is option 5A. So I am curious about the other 4 options, and wondering if, I'm not sure what the question is. I'm wondering if this is the absolute final design that we're going with. I think it's a really cool design if we have a lot more acreage.
I can answer that. That is no.
Okay, that is no. Okay. So then I'm wondering, what are the next steps here for the committee? So what happens now? I mean, do you go back to the other 4 designs we had? Are we going to do this one? What comes next?
So what the committee is going to be doing is kind of running on parallel tracks. The building committee, as it's established right now, we were charged at the last meeting when we got this cost estimate that what we're going to look at, what we'd like to do is look at this particular design that we have here and really kind of dig in and see what options changes as a building committee that we'd like to see. We're also going to be having like the separate parallel track of the options that we're going to be getting from stakeholders of different things to do. So it'll be 2 separate tracks, just kind of, we want the building committee to work through the process that they've been doing and give the building committee and all those that have been spending many, many nights going through and kind of figuring out what the needs of the school were and all that, give the building committee a chance to look at this and make any changes that they feel is appropriate, while also having another group that is looking at all of the different other options that we have. And it might be going back to option 1, I think we had 1.2B, or we've had a bunch of different options that we've looked through. As Dan said, now that we have that 1,400 line items, if we make any changes, it's much easier to say, okay, if we move this or change this or do this, it's easier to get what would the cost be there. So we have all of the groundwork laid, which got us to this. Now it's really digging in and seeing what options we can do. So we are looking at doing kind of the parallel track and looking at all the different options.
So how did this...
Up to the microphone, please. So.
Sure. How did this become the #1 design? That's what I'm here.
Through conversations at the building committee, this encompassed all the needs that we had set, that we felt as a committee that we needed. And then once we had that, we sent it to Harriman to put in the estimate and get the estimates, and then make adjustments from there.
Just to add to that, it wasn't just a building committee, a group of 20. It involved hundreds of hours of talking to students, staff, parents, 2 thought exchanges that went up to the staff and students and parents in the community. So we really tried to collect a lot of information. We're going to make sure those 4, 5, 6 other designs are posted if they're not, so you can see them. But they involve mostly all the same components, just moved around. Because they're really trying to figure out how you make it. Yeah, it's Tetris. Good question. You can, Dan.
I may have this wrong, but I think that the last building committee that we had was meeting number 15 or 14, something like that. So there have been at least 14 or 15 building committee meetings, and we've had dozens and dozens of meetings with faculty and staff and administrators, and several meetings with students, which was a lot of fun. So a lot of people had input on it, but a lot of people will have input on whatever changes that are made. So it's a work in progress.
All right, go ahead.
So I just had a couple comments. The high school could be located on Weeks Road, and that would still be in the village. Just because it's not here doesn't mean it's not in the village. The other thing is, I don't understand how we can have a proposal that relies on a road closure when we don't know that road can be closed. So why, wouldn't you have to get permission to have a road closure before you start coming up with a plan for the school? That doesn't make sense to me. The other thing is, I knew about this meeting because I'm following you, and because I have a student in the Gorham schools. And so I get an email, but neighbors and friends who don't have a student in school don't get the email. And for like my parents, they don't use the internet, and they don't have the internet, and they're not going to go out and look for a mailbox. So I'm wondering if future public forums on the high school expansion could be posted on a sign outside of Gorham Gym, the one in town, that tells us there's a rummage sale at Cressy Church. If we could use something that is more visible, if we really want input from the whole community, then I think putting it in a place where the whole community will see it.
I appreciate that, and we do want input from everybody. So any ideas for getting info out, please tell us. Go ahead.
I'm Lydia Burge, and I had just graduated here last year. I lived on Sugar Lake Road and I'm now at Yosemite, but I do have some concerns about the plan that you are providing us so far. One of them is kind of about the new gym and the, I guess, like, phys ed classroom idea. From my experience here, the phys ed classes were taking place in the gym. I don't understand entirely why you need a separate classroom for them. I can understand for health classes, but not exactly phys ed classes. And then a second concern was about the lecture hall and how I wasn't sure what classes would be teaching in the lecture hall, and if that's kind of ideal for high school students, especially being teenagers and all, when they're younger, and they'll probably be more likely to be on their phones and using their computers rather than paying attention to whoever's speaking. And then another concern was about the music rooms and all, which I had been part of the chorus all 4 years, and there were some concerns that were brought up within the class, such as most of the funding for the music department came mostly from fundraising and I want to say donations. So it's nice that you are planning on putting a separate room for the chorus, especially because of that. But I find that most of the funding will, like for this project, will be going towards the athletics and the gym, and then especially taking a look at the auditorium, and from concerts and all Gorham Chorus Night takes place here, while the band takes place in the middle school, and so there's not enough seating for all the parents, and then plus you've got the elementary students sitting in the front rows, and then the middle school and high school students are standing outside in the hall, waiting for their turn to sing. So I'm kind of concerned more for the music department and like how, other than the new chorus room, why they aren't really getting much of the renovation in this project.
You raised a lot of good points. I really appreciate you coming. And I'll try to remember them all. If I don't, someone will step in. But in terms of the PE classroom, through this investigation, we looked at the schools all around us, what's happening, how their instruction is occurring. And we discovered many places PE instruction is occurring in the classroom, doing work in the classroom, then coming to the gym or out to the field. So that's what we're looking at doing and hoping to do. Lecture hall, we're picturing, say, there's 4 World History 1 classes taught by different teachers, or taught by one teacher. They can bring all those students in together, they can bring in a speaker, or have an interactive session with all 100 students at once, or do assessments all together in that place. So that's the concept there. We've seen it work well at South Portland High School and Pembroke High School. So that's the idea, and also to provide a space for the community for something like this to occur in a space like that. In terms of the we did talk about this space a lot. I've experienced a lot as former principal. I know Mr. John has about trying to fit everyone in here really hard. So we looked really into that as the building committee in many of those 14, 15 meetings. That was one of those things that we fiscally had to wrestle with. We determined as a building committee that we couldn't cost effectively wise make a change here or build another auditorium somewhere in the structure. But I hear you on that. That was a real battle. And Mr. John and I really fought for that, and we determined we couldn't do it. At least at this point, but you're bringing it up again, so maybe we'll take one more bite at it. What was your other question? About music in general. We are excited to be adding a chorus room. So there's a chorus and band room. We're adding some storage as well, and we're going to upgrade the practice facilities for all the students. And add some drama storage as well. The storage is a real challenge here too. Really appreciate you coming. Proud graduate, I like that.
You know, y'all band I'm seldom in these here. It's not here in the gym.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Just maybe a follow-up question to the question I asked earlier in terms of stepping back and looking at the big picture future options. When we assessed the option of sort of a greenfield site, which assumes then that this site would be in essence abandoned for the high school purposes, was there any value attributed to this property in terms of either its commercial use or future potential use? Maybe this goes to Jim's point about future needs for the town, deferring other types of costs that we might need. But I think that would, clearly this is a valuable piece of property located where it is. And so as those comparisons are done, the residual value of this property certainly should be taken into account. I don't know if it was or not.
I know it was discussed, but I have to look back now.
I'll look at that report.
Yeah, but it's a fair point. This property has a lot of value, no question. Any final questions, thoughts? Anyone from up here? Go ahead, please. I know, but we're trying to public access TV. All right, go ahead.
So, I guess with the park, obviously it's a concern of many. I just wanted to know, why isn't there a town council representative here? Why isn't the town manager here? It was in the American Journal, it was in the Gorham Times front page. I know it because my name was in it. And I'm disappointed for the second time in a row the town manager's not here when we support his salary. And there's all these questions about this, you know, these two articles, and I read them all 3 times, and I'm like, oh, tonight we'll get an answer, there'll be some transparency. We're not getting it. I feel like there's, the town council's like this entity that's untouchable, and they make these decisions, and yes, there's public comment, but I read the minutes, I think it was 3 years ago when the whole initiation of the lawyer is going to get ready to start moving on that. And when you read the minutes of that agenda, there are about 3.5 pages on marijuana moratoriums in this town. And when you read through like the 5,000 words of that, then it's there. I mean, I read the agenda, I try to be really dedicated as a community member, having my husband as a past town council member, board member. So we are very concerned what goes on in this town, but I would really love to see some more transparency from the town. Have a representative. There's 7 of them. Why isn't one here? And I'd like to see the town manager here.
So I will say, with the town council, we do have members of the town council here. We had members of the town council at the last meeting. For having conversation, there's one sitting right behind you, 3 rows. And another one better. So there are some up there. They're part of the process with speaking with the town councilors. We have them as part of our building committee. I think we had 5 at the last building committee when this was done, and then we had our joint meeting as well. I would recommend you have those questions. You want those. We can't answer those because we weren't part of that process. Talking about where we park. Reach out to your town councilors. Speak to them. Email them. To have those conversations. I'm quite confident that they know the process that was gone through for those. There may be some that weren't on there at that time, so just bear with them if they weren't part of that process. But there may be some counselors that were there that were part of that, and I think we may have a counselor that would like to speak. So, Councilor Phillips.
I'm only going to speak on behalf of myself and not the rest of the council, but I agree. I actually just thought of that after the last meeting. There's a lot of questions that people have about the town. I do think, and I just mentioned it to somebody in the back, that I think from now on we need to have somebody from the town, whether it's a town councilor, the town council chair, the town manager, speaking to these points, because I can, from our standpoint, I can answer some of the questions that have been asked tonight, some of the questions I can't answer. And we do need somebody from the town to answer. It's a half and half situation at this point. So I think we do need to, going forward, you know, I'd like to be able to answer half these questions, but like I said, I'm only one of 7 people, and it's not fair of me to speak on behalf of the council. So, but I can tell you that we are looking at impact fees at the April council meeting. We are looking to, we have an item on here to put some impact fees back on speaking on that. That was one thing that I can answer. So thank you.
Thank you.
On the building committee, who is representing the community? Do you have a community member on the building committee?
So it's an interesting question because we do have specific members that are, in quotations, community members.
Yeah, and I mean like not somebody who lives in town who can represent, but do you have anybody, because I know that it's often best practice to get somebody from community to come and represent. Like, and personally, I don't work for the town anymore. I don't have kids in the system, but I live in the neighborhood. You know, that would be, I would be interested in being on the committee. Do you have a person like that on the committee?
Yes, we do have. I would have to go back and look. I think we have I have 2 or 3 members of the community. 2. I'm getting 2 fingers from Councilor Phillips. So I think there's 2. But the other thing that you have to remember is, like, I'm representing the school board, but I live and pay taxes in Gorham, so I'm a member of the community too. So that's why I said it's kind of a difficult question. We have 2 that are specific, non-affiliated with a government entity, sort of as part of it. But sitting around that table, just about everybody that's on there, or I'd say the vast majority, are members of our community.
Right. How did those 2 people get onto this committee?
That is not a question that I could answer for you. I would have to go back and...
Well, I'm wondering, I'm hearing a lot of people with a lot of concerns, and I'm wondering if that was publicized as a thing where you could volunteer to be on that committee or something, or if moving forward that could be...
The members that we have, I will say the members that we have on there have participated and been very active in community forums and things like that in the past. But specifically how we reached out to them and picked those particular, I can't give you that information, but we can get that answer.
And thank you for this tonight. This is very
Hi, I'm Mark Stady. I live on 2 Belmont Terrace. I'm just struck when looking at this and thinking 164 new parking spaces. And if you build, they will come. There'll be 164 cars traveling down with Laurel Ave or Access or Ballpark Road. Every day coming in, every day coming out. It's already very congested, but 164 more cars. Then I was thinking, what's the #1 source of pollution in the state of Maine? Automobiles. And what's the #1 way that we pollute with automobiles? When you're parked in idle or in slow traffic. So I'm thinking as a school community, as a school board, and we're thinking about, you know, our children, grandchildren, thinking about the future of the planet. Wouldn't it be a really good role model as a high school, as a community, to say, stop with the driving? Why don't we reduce the number of parking spaces? What has the school committee thought about not adding 164 parking spaces, but instead encouraging carpooling or busing or other types of alternatives? That would be future thinking. What are your thoughts on that?
So I agree with you, and those are conversations that I will have the principal of the high school speak to, because it's something that we have talked about, the possibility of what are we using the current parking spaces for and what the benefits are for our students. So I'll let Mr. John go to talk about that.
Sure. So right now we have 70 teachers and then about 30 to 40 support staff. So we reserve 110 parking spots for staff. And then the rest of the parking spots that we have available go to seniors right now. And that's been a precedent that's been for a long time. When you think about why we would need parking spots programmatically, it is so that we can provide opportunities for students to take early college classes at USM or SMCC. We are really looking at having the senior year be an experience for students where they have 1 foot here at Gorham High School finishing up the requirements that they need to graduate, and 1 foot in whatever world they want to pursue outside of high school, beyond high school. So whether that's internships or workplace learning experiences or college, or And to be able to do that, our students need the ability to get during the day from the high school to whatever opportunity that they're going to be pursuing. After school, we have students who have siblings to take care of. They have jobs, their parents work, and they can't take a bus home to get a car to then get to the job that they have. And the list goes on. We actually polled our students about a month ago as to why parking, and there were a list of over 100 reasons given for why they need parking. Now, obviously, your points about the environment are very good ones, but when you look at the lives of our students that they're leading, they need transportation, and what we hear from the parents of our students is that they want their kids to have transportation. And then if Athletic Director Spear were here, or if you've ever been here for an event in this room, you know that parking is very limited, and there's just not the parking spaces to support even an auditorium of 750.
I think those are really good points, and they actually argue to the point of relocating. I mean, every point suggests it should relocate somewhere else because of parking, congestion, safety, and make it more efficient for students to get in and out and back, et cetera. So I think they would relocate.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Last call.
What's the next public forum? What's the next one? Yeah, so I'm in favor of that too. Build it where it won't have so much idling traffic, Memorial Avenue and Access Road filled with buses. I also wanted to speak to her comment about wanting to be part of this Gorham High School expansion, and I would have thought that where we have been very vocal for the last 25 years about all the development in this neighborhood, that it would have been really nice if somehow we would have known that there was an opportunity to be on high school expansion. So I don't know if there's seats at the table now, or if this is at the public forum.
Well, what I will say is anybody is invited to come to our building committee meetings. We do have some members of the public that come and sit, that provide us input kind of after the meetings and direct input, because it's not a public meeting in which we have public comment or public forum in this way. But you could still participate by attending those meetings and providing us information through conversation. There's a lot of conversations that happen after those meetings adjourn, and talking about things, and we've had members from the public talk to us that way. Again, towards the how we got the two, I can't really speak to that, but I get it is a good point as to the makeup of these committees as we go forward, and making sure that we're getting all the stakeholders that can provide some information and feedback to us. And the public forum, next public forum, I don't think we've scheduled it yet. But I did like the idea of trying to use road region. I think you had that one. I like that idea of trying to use that. And, I'll make sure I'll push on my end to see if we can work with the town and the rec department and whoever deals with that sign to make sure that we have that on there. Because we try on Facebook, we try on, the superintendent has a blog, it's on Twitter. We're trying everything we can. The emails, it's easy when you have a student in the school district, because you'll get those emails, but we're trying as much as we can to get this information out so that we can have the public provide us with some feedback at forums like this as well.
The next building committee is April 11th at 6 p.m. It's at the second floor of the town office. Do you have a comment?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jen Pickett. I am on every aspect, every side of this. I'm a school bus driver, I'm a taxpayer. I personally think this school has reached its limits. We can't keep expanding, and I think when we look at this, we need to be able to expand, because this town is, oh my goodness, I drive it every day, and there is nothing but more houses going in, more houses going in, more houses going in. So 1,100 is what now? it's just going up. The bus routes are getting longer, there's more kids. There's just gonna be more traffic on these roads. I'm sorry, we do the best that we can to get out of the way, but we're dealing with these high school kids that have parked in every nook and cranny, in between every tree that they possibly can fit into, and then they're racing us to get out of there. I don't know how people in Douglas Circle get out of there. I had 2 of them coming at me the other day from Douglas Circle area, side by side. I'm like, what did we do? I mean, we sit and we wait in traffic. I think this building has reached its limits. There's nowhere to expand to. I also think we should have one elementary school and end the bus issues that we have with transferring kids everywhere. I think it's time to start thinking beyond fixing this building or fixing that building and fixing the problems. I mean, even, I know you guys like it in town, out of town, business is probably thrilled because in half days we won't have swarms of kids that are running across South Street and running across Main Street to get to Burger King or Subway because they finally have that afternoon off to get that chance to do things on their own. And they're not looking at the traffic lights. They're darting out from just straight across Main Street. It's the things we see as bus drivers, but I think the traffic is only going to get worse on these roads. And I don't know about cutting access road off or leaving it open. I can see pros and cons to both ways. One way in would at least make one line of traffic. 2 ways is just people cutting each other off. And we get in stalemates because people want to go left and onto access road from Morrill Ave, and we're trying to go left onto Morrill Ave from access road, and you're just at a dead stop. The bus driver, we do the best we can with traffic, but it's traffic. There's just nothing we can do. We've even suggested, how about right turn only out of Morrill Ave for that 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour, half an hour. Just get us in there. Get us out.
So that wasn't a rule that didn't happen.
We tried. We don't get anywhere. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Steve Cole. I wasn't going to speak tonight, so just wanted to give information. I've kind of been drawn into the larger issue. Other one's Spruce Lane, didn't drive my car anymore. I also bought the Grady property that is now going to have 16 house condominiums behind the neighborhood. I see they just cut down a whole bunch of trees while I never been to school. I'm not sure why, I don't know what's going to happen. I think the underlying cause is the town council has a old growth project. At one of the meetings that I went to for the Grady project, I was told essentially that this urban area right here is a high growth area, and they want it's going to be high density. They want as many homes in this area as they can get. Spruce Lane has 8 ranches. They don't build ranches anymore. Because we now have sewer in that area, they can put 16 house condominiums, and none of them have a yard. They have a common grassy area, I guess. So I think if you're concerned about growth, you need to be at the town council. I have shirked my duty in Gorham for a long time, but the 16 house condominiums in my neighborhood has caused me to speak out. I appreciate it when a school needs to expand. I was in Westbrook when they built the new middle school. The Harriman Associates did that, did an awesome job. But the question isn't, do we need a new school? The question is, are you going to continue to build all these homes on postage stamp sized property? And therefore the school will have to continue to expand forever. I think the town council needs to take hold of what their plan is. Right now, I think their plan is to put a house in every square inch of the village. This used to be a village. I've been here since 1974. This is not a village anymore. This is an urban area. So I think all of the concerns that we expressed here tonight come from the fact that town council apparently is allowing unlimited growth in the village area, especially. So I don't know. I'm going to start attending town council meetings now, and they'll know who I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on a second, Jim.
I just want round 2 and try to wrap this up. I'm not sure if round 3, 4, and 5 should be allowed. We got one of these. I just want to thank everybody that's involved in the time and effort, trying to whatever they can. I want to thank the people that have come out. I disagree totally about anyone who is unaware of the developments, because anyone who doesn't know what's going on is their heads are completely in the sand. I've received all kinds of notices, Gorham Times, American Journal, emails. You go to the school website, nothing here is hidden whatsoever. And as far as the community members, I recall receiving at least 2 notices when they're looking for community members. One person who is a community member is John Smith, probably the local person that's held in highest esteem for helping the village of Gorham and there's many great developments. So I don't think the school has tried to hide anything with regard to notices or involving the community. And I spoke with a dozen people last night in a meeting and emphasized the importance of them coming here tonight and speaking. Out of the dozen, 2 have showed up. Most citizens don't take the time to get involved, pay attention, and give input to the folks that are trying to do a good job of the town of Gorham. So even though none of us are going to be totally happy with the end result, whatever that is, if you don't stay plugged in, then you don't know what's going on. Again, thank you for your time.
I can wrap this up for us tonight. So I have 2 just really quick things for the suggestion list. A paper mail would be awesome. I heard everybody mention every other form of communication except for the one with stamps, real stamps. I think that would be awesome. And I wondered if we looked into, this is probably town council, but if we looked into traffic lights on Narragansett and South Street. I think that could help, or maybe even by the high school. I don't know. We don't have to talk about that tonight. And the other was just a quick question. Chris, what was the date of the next meeting? You said 4/11.
April 11th.
4/11. Where?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. and where?
It's in the upstairs classroom at the town hall.
Okay.
So go up to the 2nd floor, follow the hallway all the way down to
the school side?
It's upstairs.
Okay.
So it's like the town hall, but it's the
Okay. Yeah.
school committee. You go past the superintendent's office, conference room, just keep going. It'll be on the right-hand side. You'll see a big group of people.
Yep. And the other last question I have is, how can other people contact the building committee? People who couldn't make it tonight. How could they?
I would recommend that if anybody wants to reach out to the building committee as chair of the building committee and chair of the school committee, my email is right on the website. So go ahead and reach out to me, and I'll make sure that any and all thoughts are shared with the building committee as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
I wanted to say one thing, and your question about the traffic light, that's one of the things that the traffic study is looking at. The DOT has very specific rules where they either allow or disallow a traffic light. So you have to qualify, and it has to do with the geometry of the roads and the traffic counts and all that sort of stuff. So that's being looked at, so that could be a result, I just don't know yet.
That, I was thinking of that because I know that the middle school has sort of, they have a traffic light and everything that helps with the traffic a ton with the buses. So I was wondering, if this stays downtown, that might be helpful. Thank you.
And I think the last time we had something done here, I was just talking to Norm Justice, the DOT actually denied putting a traffic light at the end of the street. It's a historical district. Go ahead, finish this up.
One suggestion for next meeting. The big blinking stand you get from the police department on the main road, that, I'd have to make.
That's a good idea as well.
Period.
Thank you very much. And since we lost half of everybody walking out anyway, I will just want to say thank you to everybody who participated and came to this, and I look forward to continuing conversations as we go through this process, as it is a process and we are not at the end of it by any means. So thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.